What if I told you that at 74, you could carry your grandkid on your shoulders, hike a mountain, or dance like you're 40 again? Would you believe me? Hey there, friends, I'm Dr. Thomas, a doctor who's spent 30 years helping folks just like you fight the silent thief that steals your strength, sarcopenia. Welcome to Living Fully After 50, where we're all about proving that your best years are still ahead. Today, I'm not just sharing medical facts, I'm telling you a story that'll hit you right in the heart. It's about Margaret Thompson, a patient who walked into my clinic 15 years ago, scared she'd lose everything she loved. Her journey will shock you, inspire you, and maybe even change your life. So, grab a coffee, settle in, and let's talk about how one daily habit turned Margaret's fear into triumph. The day Margaret walked in. Picture this, a crisp October morning in my small-town Ohio clinic. The waiting room smells faintly of antiseptic and coffee, and there's Margaret, 72, sitting stiffly in a chair, clutching her purse like it's her lifeline. Her eyes are tired, but there's a fire in them, a stubborn refusal to give up. When she shuffles into my office, each step looks like it takes everything she's got. She sits down, looks me square in the eye, and says, "Dr. Thomas, I'm terrified. I can't even get out of my garden chair without help. I don't want to be a burden to my kids." That moment gut-punched me. As a doctor, I've seen sarcopenia rob over 50 million seniors worldwide of their independence, sending 300,000 to hospitals yearly from falls. But Margaret wasn't just a statistic. She was a woman who'd once run marathons, baked pies for her church, and taught her grandkids to ride bikes. Now, she was staring down a future where she might not even walk to her mailbox. "Margaret," I said, leaning forward, "we're gonna fight this. There's one habit, one powerful habit that can bring your strength back. You in?" She nodded, skeptical but desperate. That was the start of a journey neither of us saw coming. The silent thief, understanding sarcopenia. Before we dive into Margaret's story, let's get real about sarcopenia. By 80, most folks lose half their muscle mass from their prime. That's not just a number, it's the difference between hugging your grandkids and needing a walker to get to the kitchen. The Journal of Physiology tells us some seniors in their 70s have the strength of folks decades younger. How? Habits. Not magic pills, not fancy gadgets, just daily choices that tell your body, "I'm not done yet." Margaret's fear wasn't just about weakness, it was about losing her identity. She dreamed of gardening again, of dancing at her granddaughter's wedding, of living on her terms. That's the insight here. Seniors don't just want health, they want freedom, dignity, joy. As Maya Angelou once said, "My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive." Margaret wanted to thrive, and I was determined to help her. But there was a twist waiting, a habit so unexpected it shocked us both. Stick with me, because this story's about to get wild. Habit 1, Progressive Resistance Training, the game changer. I started Margaret with the foundation, progressive resistance training. Weights? At my age, she scoffed, picturing gym brothers, not a 72-year-old grandma. I chuckled and said, "Margaret, this is about telling your muscles they are still needed. No barbells required." Tufts University calls resistance training the ultimate anti-aging drug, and for good reason. Unlike walking or swimming, it builds muscle by challenging it. We began with bodyweight squats, Margaret gripping a chair for balance. I taught her to focus on compound moves: squats, pushes, pulls that work multiple muscles. The key? Progressive overload, a little more each week. In 12 weeks, she went from wobbly to lifting 10-pound dumbbells, gaining 3.3 pounds of muscle, per a University of Alabama study. But the real magic happened at her follow-up. "Dr. Thomas," she said, eyes sparkling, "I carried a laundry basket up the stairs yesterday. First time in years." That wasn't just strength, it was pride. She was reclaiming her life, one rep at a time. Mini story: Tom's comeback. Tom, 79, was a retired firefighter who thought lifting weights was for kids. After a fall broke his hip, he was scared he'd never fish again. We started with resistance bands, focusing on slow, controlled rows. 6 months later, he was casting lines with his son, grinning like a kid. His secret? Pushing just a bit harder each session. The twist? A near miss that changed everything. 3 months into her journey, something happened that could have derailed everything. Margaret was at the park with her grandson, Ethan, when he darted toward a busy street. Instinct kicked and she ran after him, grabbed his hand, and pulled him back just in time. Shaking, she realized she'd moved faster than she had in years. But the next day, she was sore, scared she'd overdone it. She came to my office, pale. "Dr. Thomas, what if I'd fallen? What if I couldn't reach him?" That was my wake-up call to go beyond weights. Margaret's body needed more than muscle, it needed coordination, resilience, the ability to react. This near miss was the turning point, pushing us to explore habits that weren't just about strength but about living fully. As Nelson Mandela said, "The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." Margaret was ready to rise. Habit 2: Neuromuscular connections, the brain's secret weapon. Margaret's park scare showed me her muscles were only half the story. Neuromuscular junctions where your brain talks to your muscles degenerate after 60, per the University of Michigan. Without them, strength is useless. I suggested Tai Chi, which she called fancy slow motion. But after a few classes, she noticed her steps were steadier. I also taught her box breathing: inhale 4 counts, hold, exhale, hold. This vagus nerve stimulator boosted muscle activation by 15%, per studies. The surprise came when Margaret joined a ping pong league at her community center. "I'm awful," she laughed, "but I feel quick, like my body's listening." A 2020 study confirmed coordination activities like ping pong preserve neuromuscular links 31% better than regular exercise. Mini story: Linda's dance floor. Linda, 80, was a widow who felt stuck after losing her husband. I suggested ballroom dancing. She was shy but tried it. Not only did her balance improve, but she found love again, a dance partner named Frank. Her neuromuscular health soared, and she dodged a fall that could have ended her independence. Habit 3: Micronutrients, fueling the fight. Margaret's diet was okay, lots of casseroles, not much variety. Like 70% of seniors, she lacked magnesium, per the University of Vermont. She was also low on creatine and methylated B12, vital for muscle synthesis. I prescribed 3G creatine daily, magnesium-rich spinach and nuts, and a B12 supplement. In weeks, she felt a spark. A 2021 American Journal of Clinical Nutrition study showed adequate magnesium boosts grip strength by 30%. Margaret could now unscrew pickle jars, a small win that felt huge. Zinc and selenium, linked to 22% better muscle maintenance per Tufts, rounded out her plan. The fun part? She discovered dark chocolate had magnesium. Chocolate's medicine now, she teased. I grinned. A square a day, Margaret. Her joy in these tweaks made them stick. Mini story, Ed's energy. Ed, 77, was on metformin, which tanked his B12. He felt like a zombie. After adding methylated B12 and creatine, he rebuilt his strength and started woodworking again. His grandkids now beg for his carved toys, a passion revived by micronutrients. Habit 4, Taming Inflammation, the hidden enemy. Inflammation, or inflammaging, was Margaret's silent saboteur. Tufts University says high inflammation triples muscle loss. Her CRP levels were elevated, so we hit it from 4 angles: sleep, diet, exercise, and anti-inflammatory foods. She started eating 30+ plant types weekly: berries, kale, olive oil, and yogurt for gut health. She slept at 10 p.m. in a pitch-black room. In 12 weeks, her CRP dropped below 1.0 mg/L, a soup rager level. The shock? She revived her garden, planting tomatoes and herbs. Digging feels like therapy, she said. A University of California study links gut health to 29% lower inflammation. Mini story, Betty's piece. Betty, 81, had insomnia that spiked her inflammation. A sleep routine and omega-3s cut her CRP, letting her walk her dog daily. Her smile as she tossed a ball for Sparky was worth more than any prescription. Habit 5, Vitamin D, the sunshine boost. Margaret's vitamin D was abysmal, below 20 ng/ml, when 40+ is ideal, per Harvard. Over 80% of seniors are deficient, weakening muscles. We started 2000 IU daily, fatty fish, and 15-minute sun walks. Vitamin K2 from fermented foods kept her arteries clear. 3 months later, her strength jumped 25%, and she stood taller, per a JAMA internal medicine study. I feel sturdy, she said, beaming. Better balance meant fewer fall fears, a huge win for her peace of mind. Mini story, Carl's canvas. Carl, 82, was housebound, vitamin D deficient. Supplements and short walks revived his strength and mood. He started painting landscapes again, selling one at a local fair, a triumph of body and soul. Habit 6, Protein Timing, the rhythm of strength. Margaret's breakfast was toast or nothing, with protein piled at dinner. Big mistake. Anabolic resistance means seniors need 25-30 g protein every 3-4 hours, per the Journal of Nutrition. We switched to eggs, lentils, and fish across meals. In 12 weeks, her muscle synthesis rose 25%, adding 1.2 pounds of muscle, per a University of Texas study. The surprise? She and her granddaughter, Lily, started making protein smoothies. Lily calls them muscle milkshakes. Margaret laughed. It wasn't just nutrition, it was love. Mini story. Rose's recipes. Rose, 78, loved her evening roast but skipped morning protein. Spreading it out cut her fatigue, letting her knit blankets for charity again. Her family joined her in meal prep, making it a bonding ritual. Habit 7. Hormetic stress, the shock that strengthens. The wildest habit was hormetic stress, mild stressors that build resilience. The Buck Institute says cold exposure, saunas, fasting, and isometrics activate longevity genes. Margaret tried 30-second cold shower bursts and an 8-hour eating window. She was stunned by the energy. A Finnish study links saunas to 40% less muscle loss, so she joined a spot. Isometric wall pushes, easy on joints, boosted her muscle function 10% in 12 weeks, per the Salk Institute. The kicker? She joined a cold plunge group, saying, "I feel like a warrior." Mini story. Frank's fast. Frank, 80, tried fasting and felt sharper, with better blood sugar. He started hosting fasting potlucks, turning a habit into a party. His strength let him bike with his great-nephew, a dream come true. The climax, Margaret's miracle. 2 years later, Margaret strode into my clinic at 74, no shuffle in sight. She'd just hiked a trail in the Smoky Mountains with her family, a dream she thought was dead. "Dr. Thomas," she said, voice cracking, I carried Ethan on my shoulders. I thought I'd lost that forever. But it wasn't just a hike. Margaret had become a local legend. She taught Tai Chi at the rec center, shared smoothie recipes on her blog, Silver Strength, and inspired her church group to try cold plunges. Her near miss at the park? It wasn't a setback, it was the spark that made her unstoppable. As Oprah Winfrey says, turn your wounds into wisdom. Margaret turned her fear into a movement. The final twist, a letter that broke me. Just when I thought her story couldn't get bigger, Margaret handed me a letter at her last visit. "Read it later," she said, smiling mysteriously. That night, I opened it. She wrote about her daughter, Susan, who'd been estranged for years, ashamed of Margaret's frailty. Margaret's transformation, her hikes, her ping pong, her garden brought Susan back. They were planning a mother-daughter trip to Italy. I cried. This wasn't just about muscles, it was about family, legacy, love. Margaret's one habit sparked a ripple effect, healing wounds I never knew existed. That's the power of living fully after 50. Lessons for you, your turn to shine. Margaret's story is your invitation. Here's what I've learned from her and others. Fear is your signal, like Margaret's park scare. Fear can push you to act. Use it. Small steps win. Start with a squat, a smoothie, a cold shower. Build from there. Connection fuels you. From ping pong to gardening, community keeps you going. Test, don't guess. Blood tests for vitamin D, magnesium, or CRP guide your path. Embrace the weird. Hormetic stress sounds crazy, but it works. As Helen Keller said, life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. Your adventure starts with one habit. Try resistance training, grab a water bottle, do 10 squats, see a trainer for safety. Your dream, whether it's hiking, dancing, or hugging your grandkids, starts now. So, living fully after 50 family, what's your next move? Are you ready to be the next Margaret? Drop a comment below, share your story, and let's thrive together. If Margaret can hike mountains at 74, you can too.